We have a great senator on the phone with us who wanted to speak to this issue of this clerk being thrown in federal prison or federal jail at the direction of a federal judge. Senator Ted Cruz, how are you, sir?
Mark, it's very good to be with you. Thank you for having me on.
This is an absolute unbelievable outrage, is it not?
It is exactly that. Today we've seen judicial lawlessness cross over into judicial tyranny. For the first time ever, the government has arrested a Christian woman for living according to her faith. And this is wrong. This is not America.
And what's amazing about this, Senator Cruz, is what's really happening here, and I talked earlier in the show about Dred Scott and Plessy and Korematsu and case after case.
Yep.
People hold the Supreme Court up like it's morally superior to the rest of the branches of government. It's morally superior to the people in the country. Justice Kennedy has, in a deplorable way, gradually, couple of cases, moved to this result. It is result-oriented. It's his personal policy preference. So he constitutionalizes his personal policy preference. And now this woman, who is a Christian, who is an elected clerk, who's a Democrat, says, I can't do what Justice Kennedy and these other justices are directing me to do.
You are exactly right. And I would point out that Chief Justice Roberts, in dissent, rightly observed that the marriage opinion has nothing to do with the Constitution. And Justice Scalia's dissent, which is powerful, I'd urge every listener to read it, he observed that the court's opinion was so contrary to law that state and local officials would choose to defy it because it was lawlessness. It was 5 unelected lawyers declaring themselves the rulers of 320 million Americans. And it was fundamentally wrong. I stand with Kim Davis, unequivocally. I stand with every American that the Obama administration is trying to force to choose between honoring his or her faith or complying with a lawless opinion.
It's amazing to me, though, how quickly Republicans and even pseudo-conservatives fall into line, isn't it? They just fall into line. The court has spoken. Move along. What do you mean, move along?
Well, Mark, you're exactly right. And I'll tell you, about half of the Republican candidates for president in 2016, when this marriage decision, this illegitimate decision came down, immediately announced the issue's decided, accept it, it's the law of the land, surrender and move on. That's word for word Barack Obama's talking points, and it's fundamentally wrong. And, I've got to say also, there are a lot of politicians today, both Democrats and Republicans, quite a few 2016 candidates, who are tut-tutting publicly that Davis must resign. If you have an official that doesn't follow the law, she must resign. Let me say to every one of them, they are defending a hypocritical standard. Where is the call for the mayor of San Francisco to resign for creating a sanctuary city, resulting in the murder of American citizens by criminal illegal aliens welcomed by his lawlessness? Where is the call for President Obama to resign after 6.5 years of ignoring and defying our immigration laws, our welfare reform laws, and even his own Obamacare? When the mayor of San Francisco resigns, when President Obama resigns, then we can talk about Kim Davis. But for every talking head who goes on television and says this one county clerk in Kentucky is a threat to our liberty, what they are saying makes no sense.
Senator Cruz, you and I, we understand as best as we can the Constitution, and there's a difference sometimes between what the Constitution says and what a court says the Constitution says.
Absolutely.
And we have in this case 5 justices, 4 leftist Democrats, and Justice Kennedy, who's been on this agenda now for well over a decade. We have them perverting the 14th Amendment, defying the history of the 14th Amendment. Their opinion is absurd. And now anybody in an elected position or a position of authority who got there before this decision is now going to have to uphold this decision, even if it defies their faith?
You are absolutely right. And, the position of everyone who is blasting Kim Davis, and you're seeing it from both Democrats and Republicans right now.
Oh, yes.
The consequence of their position boils down to the belief that Christians should not serve in public office. That's the consequence of their decisions. Or if Christians do serve in public office, they must be willing to disregard their religious faith or be sent to jail. It is difficult to think of a proposition more contrary to who we are as an American people. As you know, there is a reason that the very first liberty protected in the very first clause of the First Amendment is religious liberty. It is foundational for everything else. The freedom of every one of us of every faith to worship God, to live according to our faith, and not have government get in the way. And we have gotten so far from the values this country was founded on, we now have the government locking up Christians and throwing them in jail. And by the way, if I'd have said 6 months ago on your show that the government was going to be locking up Christians for refusing to embrace and implement themselves gay marriage, you and I would have both been dismissed as conspiracy theorists who were making things up because it would never happen. And if you don't believe the religious liberty threat is real, they are coming for each of us. And Kim Davis is only the first. Your pastor, your rabbi, your pregnancy crisis center, the Christian university that follows the biblical teaching of marriage, all of those are next in the line, persecuting religious liberty. And I believe every believer, every constitutionalist, every lover of liberty should stand with Kim Davis, and we should stop this persecution now.
Yeah, I predict now they're going to unleash the IRS to take the tax status away from religious institutions, churches, synagogues, what have you. And look what happened in Oregon. They broke the back of that small business. Yep. I mean, this is spreading. It's spreading quickly. It amazes me that the left is able to portray this as compassion, as tolerance, when it is the opposite. And I resent what Justice Kennedy and these 4 justices did. They amended the Constitution of the United States without going through the process, and now we're going to have case after case. And this federal judge, Ted, didn't have to do this. He asked those deputy clerks if they would issue those licenses. 6 out of 7 said yes, but he wanted to bring down the iron fist on top of this lady.
It is arrogant judicial activism. It is hubris. It is the desire to punish Christians, to punish anyone who stands for their faith. You know, a week and a half ago, Mark, I hosted a rally for religious liberty in Iowa. It was an incredible evening. And we had 2,500 people come out in Iowa. It was the single largest political event this year in Iowa. And since the media so constantly belittles the threats to religious liberty, what we did is we had 9 heroes from across the country who have stood for their faith and been persecuted. We had Aaron and Melissa Klein, who you mentioned.
30 seconds.
Bakers, and they told their story. Let me urge your listeners, go to tedcruz.org and listen to these heroes tell the stories. Real people, bakers, florists, a fire chief. We need to stand together and protect our religious liberty.
All right, Senator Cruz, we wish you well. I'll see you on September 9th as we rally for America and against arming the Iranian regime with nukes. God bless.